everybody, and welcome back to the Comic Nerds, episode 2, where I'm here, Adam, with Shane and Andrew, and this is our show. So if you haven't been here before, again, this is our show, where we talk about everything comic-based, Marvel, DC, and other topics and whatever. So happy Veterans Day, by the way, to any and all veterans. Um, let's just kind of get right into it because I feel like we have a lot of things to discuss. I feel like this week was kind of on the more, I guess, how should I say? This is very a big week for Marvel because the Eternals just dropped on Friday and they just released the official Spider-Man poster for Spider-Man No Way Home. So I think that's some things that we need to discuss. We all watched the Eternals movie, so I figured what we can do is give a non-spoiler and a spoiler review. So that way people who have not watched the movie can kind of get a better take on what to expect, as well as people who did watch the movie. We can kind of talk about all the important things, how this is going to lead up phase 4, as well as kind of just the end credit scenes, which I feel like are very important and I'm very excited about. So let's start off with the non-spoiler review. And I kind of want to hear Andrew's take on this first because Andrew has not liked a lot of the Marvel movies that he's seen.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this movie, I want to say it's okay. Uh, it's like the same rating I gave Shang-Chi, whatever you pronounce it.
Shang-Chi?
However you pronounce it. Yeah. Yeah. But the only difference is that I think I like Shang-Chi better because it has that bus scene.
The bus scene
And
was
this,
really
I mean,
cool.
that was the best part of the whole thing.
Yeah, that was cool.
yeah,
The music was even
this,
good.
it only had like one good scene, and I can't spoil it obviously, but like the whole movie, it just felt too long and it didn't need to be long. Like I kind of dozed off quite a lot actually throughout the whole movie, and it was okay. It wasn't
Mm,
up there like Iron Man stuff. It was just okay.
I
okay.
mean, it's an introduction to an entirely new story arc with like a massive amount of main characters, and I feel like that's a hard one to pull off itself. So I
Yeah,
feel like
I,
that
I
maybe I could play into it.
that was one of the criticism. New characters, a bunch of new characters, and people was just like kind of follow each and every character. So, like when I was watching, I'm like, it was easy. It's just there was a lot of scenes that was that's my review.
Eh.
Eh,
We give it an eh.
Yeah.
All
on a
right.
scale of one to it's eh. Okay, got you.
Or it's, I guess on
Honestly,
a
that's a
scale of
fair.
1 to good, it's eh. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, back to what I guess what you were saying, Shane, is I mean, Eternals is not a very big comic section of
It's not
Marvel.
known.
It's very
Yeah.
small and it's very like it wasn't really known up until kind of Marvel Studios announced that they were doing this movie. So I feel like it is very difficult to bring a very like a lesser known comic into this huge, I guess, cinematic film that has something to do with phase 4 or like the past 3 phases because it's just very like we've had 3 great phases with 3 phases full of huge superheroes: Spider-Man, Iron Man, Captain America, Black Panther, Doctor Strange, all these very big named I guess characters, and now you're taking a very small comic and you're trying to make that into what we've already seen, and I think that that's very difficult. I think it helped that they had a lot of kind of very well-known actors and actresses, um, because I loved Kit Harington, loved Angelina Jolie, the other guy from Game of Thrones whose name is escaping me right now,
I
but
don't
it
remember the
was,
last name.
yeah, it was very. I thought it was, as far as my opinion goes, I will also say it was eh, but I will say it's like a I'll also say it's like a like it's a higher because it's not really like a lower
Yeah,
The
the
action,
tones.
yeah,
Yeah, yeah, the
exactly.
tones. Okay.
It's the tones because I loved the action. The action scenes in this movie were great, but there were some times where I was getting a little confused, and I
One.
felt like it was which one?
One action scene. I can't say it. It's
Oh, okay.
non-spoiler.
We'll talk about it in the spoiler because I,
One.
if I'm thinking of the same action scene, that scene was absolutely amazing. But as far as non-spoilers, personally, I think that they did a decent job explaining the Eternals without actually going too heavy into an origin story and making it feel like this movie was just an origin story. Because I'm kind of tired of origin stories. I mean, we've seen so many Batman origin stories, so many Spider-Man, so many like different origin stories that just are so repetitive that I just kind of want to get into the movie. And I felt like Eternals did a decent job of that, where they explained the origin, but they also just went ahead and made it a movie. So I
Yeah.
appreciated that. I felt that some of the acting was subpar, kind of on the lesser known actors and actresses. It was kind of eh. The comedy was good. Um, but
Ooh,
I
real
did.
quick,
Oh,
speaking of
yeah.
comedy, I will say I like this style of comedy better than. It's a bit different than your usual Marvel comedy.
Right.
At least that's how I felt. It wasn't raining any man. Just Marvel, like it always like a serious moment like that. This that didn't really have that. So I appreciate that. On terms of
Yeah. The,
Wasn't too forced or anything.
no, it wasn't. And I thought it was it was smooth. I thought the movie in general was just very smooth. But again, acting was eh and in some of the moments. And I felt like this movie could have been shortened. There was a lot of times where I was kind of like,
It was
okay,
3 hours.
like really, like, can we just kind of get on with this? I think I liked. That's why I'm saying because like I think this movie, if they didn't have the actors and actresses that they did in this movie, I don't think it would have been that good of a movie.
Yeah.
But as far as bringing the Eternals into the universe, solid. I would probably give this maybe like a 6.5 to 7 out of 10. I wouldn't really say it's my top. It's not in my top favorites. It's definitely not in my top five, but it's somewhere in the middle, and it's not like the worst movie of the Marvel universe. So Shane, I don't know. I don't know what you thought or if you would
I feel
agree.
like compared to you guys, I'm just too much of an optimist about it. You know what I mean? The thing is, I'm very excited. I was very excited about this movie because I felt like it is the imagine so like phase one, right? You have the Iron Man movie, all these origin stories and intro to the universe and everything. I consider phase four as the full reset, right?
Hmm.
They're starting an entire new story arc that's gonna bring their own version of Endgame,
Right.
where like they're building up from this point. And I felt like the
yeah.
introduction to Eternals plays a really good story. Like it's like a possibility that with the Celestials and like one of like a Celestial could be like Galactus and like other stories stuff like that. Is it's a huge one. And like thing is with that too, it's that like so Thanos, right, was a huge story arc.
Oh yeah.
One character. He in himself is technically an eternal, but a deviant form.
Right. We could
So
talk
he,
about that in the
yes,
spoiler section too.
yeah. But I'm saying like, uh, he is this one character that carried the entire movie to build up to his
Hmm.
story. Whereas like these are all of the characters, including a celestial, and I'm like, okay, that's gonna be like they gotta be building up to a really epic storyline. You know what I mean? And like
They.
the
Yeah. Oh, go ahead.
no, yeah, yeah, because I mean like with the introduction to the characters, it was nice. Like it was like definitely is a lot to have like because it's I consider it like a team like them building a team like a team movie, right? Where Guardians of the Galaxy came out, they had to have like all like five characters that they had to make super important and stuff like that. So it was like trying to do that, but like a little bit bigger and give them a little history, but make them current because they technically went through history and like they made their imprints throughout history and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And I'm
And
like,
I found that
That's it.
very interesting too, because
Yeah,
that was
because
really cool.
yeah, because when the thing is, it was like prior to Guardians of the Galaxy, like not a lot of people knew their stories.
Hmm.
When they came out, when that movie came out, they were like, "Oh, this is actually kind of like entertaining. It's funny," and that was what sold them on it. And so it was like I'm trying to give it the same kind of like hopefulness, where like, okay, like Eternals, it's a bit more serious than obviously like a lot of the other stuff, but like I feel like it's building up to be something a lot more interesting. And like when we get to the spoilers part, I feel like I can get into it a little deeper about it.
Hmm.
But I mean, I get what you guys are saying with a lot of the stuff you said, and like if I were to rate it, it would be somewhere between like 7 and 8. Like eight
Wow.
is like being generous.
Wow. Yeah, I was gonna say
Freaking high.
Yeah, eight, yeah,
that's a
is
little generous.
That
yeah
is
eight
high.
yeah eight is generous, but like it's I scale it based on potential, not just
Mm.
Yeah,
what
you
it.
can't do that.
Come on,
You
I
gotta
mean
I,
like
see it as its own movie. You're seeing it as like a beginning of a story, so it's you're giving it a rating based on that idea. No, that's not
well, I
fair.
mean like
Give it as
it's
a single movie, like a movie, like not as a Marvel story, but as a
I mean,
movie.
because things
What
it's
do you
like
think it is?
with like say imagine Infinity War. Infinity War is a two-part movie, right? So like you can't say you stop at
You
Infinity
can.
War without starting Endgame. You know what I mean? Like it's like you have to expect Endgame's gonna happen. So like you're rating the movie based on the potential of what the next movie is gonna be.
hmm.
And I'm not even
Okay.
talking about the next
There's no
movie.
next movie yet.
Yeah,
It's
that's what, I'm
just
not even talking about the next
there's
movie
no
of Eternals.
continuous story. It's just a
That's what
single movie.
because I feel like this one it's not even gonna be like oh like Eternals 2. That's not what I care about. It's that like they're gonna make cameos in a bunch of other Marvel movies that I'm excited about.
Mm.
That's what I
Okay.
think.
So,
This is the issue with Marvel movies that I have. It's like people just watch it to know what's gonna happen next.
some
I
movies
mean,
kinda.
it's,
I felt like Eternals was really. I was very excited for the end credit scenes, so I kind of felt bad watching the movie, but I did like the movie in general. But I did remember just thinking, like, okay, what the hell are the end credit scenes gonna be? Because I need to know, like, because I know that they're gonna be
yeah,
big. But now going back too, because you did say, Thanos was such a huge part. Thanos was a three-phase long villain in such an amazing like trilogy here where I'm a
yeah.
little nervous as to whoever, and I think they said that Kang was going to be the next protagonist. I'm not entirely sure, but I'm
King the Conqueror is
No
gonna be
protagonist.
in uh the
antagonist. I'm
villain, the next
sorry.
villain. Yeah,
Yeah, the
and
next
because King the
villain.
Conqueror is supposed to be in the next Ant-Man and Wasp movie, so he's gonna be
Yes,
the antagonist in that. But if you guys have seen the Loki series,
I have
he
not.
is absolutely oh well
Yeah.
a variation of him is in
That's like
that
my
movie.
least favorite character in Marvel so far.
Really?
Bro, I'm telling
That's in.
it's real quick, let me just do it low key like I won't spoil nothing too much for you guys, but it's like there since Disney Plus has done all these TV series of Marvel, Loki I believe has one of the best plot lines
Mm-hmm. I've heard.
because it's there's a complexity to it and like this likability about Tom Hiddleston's portrayal.
Oh,
You know
everyone
what I mean?
loves Tom Hiddleston.
That
Yeah.
like because there's the character development and like the emotion behind it, and then like it eventually plays in back into the MCU like the full movies,
Yeah.
and it's like oh where is this gonna go? Or like oh man like I'm like it's exciting.
Right.
I mean
Yeah, but so going back, I think so. Yeah, Kang the Conqueror is supposed to be the next villain, but I'm just kind of worried a little bit that we have seen the best of Marvel because it's so hard to top what just freaking happened. You know what I mean? Like it's so hard to top the first three phases, especially with such a like the Avengers, the OG Avengers. But now you're gonna have like people like Blade, which is still a good standalone movie. I think Blade is gonna be great. But then I think you're gonna still have Spider-Man, which is gonna be good. You're gonna have like the Eternals, Shang-Chi. Uh, I guess we're gonna be introduced to X-Men again, as well as the Fantastic Four. So those I think are gonna be very big movies. but I'm just hoping that they can continue to create these movies in these next couple of phases as well as they did with the first three, because I feel like the first three really sets the bar pretty high. So, kind of comparing the Eternals, I think that they did a good job as far as a standalone movie goes. So, standalone movie is great. I'm excited to see what happens with them in the future. Um, but I don't know. I wasn't as excited about this movie as I thought I was going to be, to be honest with you.
I mean, like, there's this. I feel like the first three is this next phase is gonna be one of the hardest ones to push out. Yeah, I think because the first three phases did these intros to like some of the most known Marvel superheroes ever, and they killed off half of them. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
So it's like now they have to introduce all these other characters inside the same universe that like aren't as popular in the comics, but do like make like carry weight in the comics as well if like you are a comic book reader.
Right.
And so it was like because like I was talking about how like who's gonna take the mantle of like Captain America or you know Iron Man and stuff like that. And I was like, who's gonna lead the team? I was like, okay, it's gonna be like good chance is Captain Marvel because it seems like a fitting role, but then also in some iterations she does take lead of the Avengers and everything. And then they have like one of the movies planned out, which is like a next Captain Marvel movie. But then there's apparently another TV series that's starting called Miss Marvel, which is like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
from the same, yeah. And so it was like expanding, but these are all less known characters that needs to be done so well that people just have to become fans of it because of either the actors and actresses or because these superheroes are so cool and everything, and they can be just as mainstream as Iron Man, Captain America, and all that.
Right.
Yeah, I mean, I will say that when the whole Marvel thing started, the whole Marvel universe, I only knew Iron Man and the Hulk. Like, I didn't
Yeah,
know anything about Thor. I didn't even know Thor was a Marvel character. I just thought that's just a character, like in anything. And then
Oh,
I didn't know Doctor Strange, Ant Man. I didn't know any of those characters. But seeing those movies, I was able to give it, a fair, to me, it's like a fair rating. And I like Doctor Strange. I didn't like that. I didn't like Thor. So it's like one of those things where they did a good job of unknown characters to be, and I still find a way to like it. Strange. Like this movie, it just didn't sell it for me. Like how Strange sold it.
mm,
Just it's like I don't know about the stories out. It just wasn't a good movie. I don't think.
yeah.
yeah.
Eternals.
Eternals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So let's hope they release something that's gonna be on par with at least Doctor Strange or some shit.
Yeah, I'm more excited about the post credits than the
Very,
movie itself. I'll be
very.
real honest about that.
All right, Shane. So I'm gonna
But
force you to do something here. You rated the movie as the movie for the future. What is your rating as a standalone movie for the Eternals?
okay, let me see. So first of all, love that Angelina Jolie in the Marvel universe.
Yeah,
She in
she's great.
itself gives
That's
the
probably
rating
the only
already a
reason.
five.
Yeah,
That gives it an automatic five already.
yeah.
Just her alone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm a big fan of the characters like the 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 speedster. Phenomenal speedster, better than any Flash
Mm-hmm.
and like other like Quicksilver that I've seen.
Thank you.
So it was like her
In terms of
actions,
being
her action,
or action.
her action sequences, beautiful. Love that. And just I feel like those two alone gives to me a seven,
A seven.
solid
Okay.
seven.
So we're
Okay,
averaging. Well,
still high.
yeah. That's still. Well, I
It's high.
gave it a
No,
seven
it is
too.
high. Because thing is,
Yeah, I
right?
know.
It's the so this was actually so I was having a discussion with Rolly earlier, and they wasted such a good villainous character. You know what I mean? There was those deviants, and then there was the Celestials, and it felt like a waste. And real quick, I I'm almost slipping out into spoilers, so I can't say any more unless you want to start spoilers.
We can start
'Cause,
spoilers
like,
very soon. Yeah, I was gonna kind of
yeah,
start segueing into the spoiler section. Just
yeah,
finishing up the non-spoilers. On average, it kind of feels like we're giving it about a 6 or 7. Um,
yeah,
on average. I mean, Andrew's
yeah.
giving it a little bit lower. I just think a 7 is because I think it was better than it was better than half. I just feel weird giving it a
No,
6. You know what I mean? 7 is usually
It's
kind of like my baseline. I usually kind of give movies a lot like
a
that I
six.
like are like 7s.
I
I would
can't remember which.
agree if you average to like a 6. I would agree with that,
Yeah. Okay.
but
So
that's
we're,
because
we're
3 people gave that review.
yeah we're getting like a 6. Okay. So we're averaging like a 6 then because
Yeah,
Andrew's base kind of pushes ours down a little bit. But all right.
yeah. It's because sorry.
No, yeah, go for it.
No, because it was like I think highly of it because it's like Marvel just does like CG sequences like well. Like
Mm,
just like you know how Icarus is like an off-brand version of Superman. I love his like the way he fights in it and stuff. It's like great. So
did
I
really
mean,
well.
like if I'm talking about the standalone movie, I'm talking about the action sequences and the character developments, the plots and stuff like that.
Hmm.
So like it's to me like better than like Batman vs Superman or Justice League, like throwing in a bunch of characters, a speedster, a flight with laser beam eyes person, like warrior princess kind of person. It's like might as well be kind of like an off-brand or like a better version of Justice League. Like they did
Okay.
like well, so like I'm solid for like a 7.
Okay. All right.
I will say that like when the movie started, like in the beginning of the movie, I was like, what kind of Justice League movie is this? And then as it got further in, I was like, this is actually better. It's getting better. The action wise is getting better than
Definitely.
what we saw in
Yeah.
Justice League.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so what I'm going to do now is we're going to go into the spoiler section of this review here. So I'm going to give everyone just a few minutes to kind of just leave here if you can, and last chance, do or die here. You're gonna listen to us, or you're gonna get spoiled if you haven't seen the movie. Don't be upset with us if we ruin something that you didn't know, because I'm giving you ample enough time. There's an alert. There's noises. There's us warning everyone. All right, here we go. We're gonna get into this. I'm just gonna put. Hold on a second. The spoiler alert. All right, this is even more spoiler alerty. We got the spoiler alert sign. So if you haven't figured it out already, this is the spoiler alert section of the movie. I don't
I'm
want to see
busy
no
Say it
damn
one
looking
more
at the
comments.
time.
spoiler alert.
Just one more
I'm busy
time.
looking at the spoiler alert. That's a lot.
Yeah, it's a
So
lot.
like,
But the thing is, someone's gonna watch something and be like, well, spoilers. And I'll be like, dude, like, I gave you like
yeah,
20
Yeah,
seconds.
Shane.
yeah, you gave a long time.
So is the
So,
spoiler right now?
this is the
Spoiler.
spoilers right now, which I'm very excited to start. So go ahead, Andrew.
Okay, I'll give a spoiler rating. A spoiler rating would be like a 5 or 6. Actually
Interesting.
6. Yeah.
Wait,
Only
what?
because I couldn't talk about.
Spoiler.
I have a non-spoiler rating and I have a spoiler rating.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because there are certain, like I said, the only reason why Shang-Chi got the result it did because of that one thing. If it didn't have that bus scene, I wouldn't have given that number that I gave, which is like a 4. It probably would have been like a 2 or a 1. That one action scene made it to like a 4. So I will say that action scene that I like in this movie was like towards the end, obviously, like when they were fighting Icarus. All of them was fighting Icarus. Yo, that fight scene was like insane. That thing I
Yeah.
thought it was like a 6. Like
Dude,
a 5 and a 6.
the
It's insane.
the scene where the oh god, what's her name? The speedster was like beating the crap out of Icarus. That was
Oh,
like one of
Yeah.
the greatest scenes. And
I
that's
know
how
when she
you
did the
fight
stomp.
as a
yeah,
speedster.
Oh,
that's how you fight.
yeah.
I was thinking too. I was like, yo, she could totally whoop Flash's ass. Like I was like 100%
Absolutely.
she
No,
could
see, it's not.
demolish him.
Okay, this is where my DC side's gonna come out. She's not gonna whoop Flash's ass.
Yes, she is. 100%.
No way, no. Because if Flash was actually being serious, she'd be done before she even could move. So I'm just saying, he's like the fastest character in any universe. So you can't beat Flash. It's
I
He
just
mean,
can
in the
people in
argument,
TV shows and animated movies, for some reason they like to dumb him down
A
in terms of
bunch.
speed and intellect. He always loses to like a gorilla who's like supposedly smart or something like that. But it's like this dude can move faster than the speed of light, like tenfold.
Right.
Like, are you kidding me? Like before, the gorilla guy
Yeah,
can freaking
like
think
hey,
something.
Flash may be faster, but like she has this warrior
Moves,
fighting style.
Yeah,
combos, the
she's like a
this
mixture of like
Jesus.
Wonder Woman and Flash put together.
She
The way
could
she fights,
she could easily
which is
dodge
badass.
Flash's thunder or lightning because she was
He wouldn't use
dodging
that
the
though.
laser beams left and right. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
He wouldn't use that.
yeah, okay.
He would literally just go back in time and make her not exist.
That's true.
No. Flash
But
only ever
she's an
used that
eternal.
last resort.
I know.
And like, yeah,
I know. I'm just
but,
saying
like,
he could if he wanted to. He'll just say it as
yeah.
a threat.
Mm.
So real quick, so when I almost kind of spoiled it. Where so the discussion that Rolly and I was having, right, was he was talking about the waste of these, like, a character, right, the deviant
Oh,
that
100%.
became highly intelligent and had a simple kill, a simple ending in
You
his
kind
death.
of did spoiler that in the non-spoiler when you said like they wasted these villains, the Celestials and Deviants.
Yeah,
Like the viewers
I know,
don't
but
Eh,
know that the Celestials.
they're not gonna. They're not
I was
gonna.
gonna, I
It
was gonna,
doesn't matter.
I'm gonna
Eh,
explain more into it, and it's just
yeah.
that, like, so what it was like, what was the point to like give the deviant such a like great like villain backstory of like you killed our kind and we just want revenge, or like we want justice for this and that. He's become more intelligent, and he looks like he's becoming emotional and caring, because he like absorbed like one of the other Eternals, and so it's like he just dies. What's
Yeah,
the
I think
point of like?
they
Well,
really
so
wasted the deviants.
okay,
It could
right.
have
So
been a great
everything is
villain
not
in itself.
fine, fair enough. Like but it's not set in stone that deviants are completely erased.
No, they're not
No, that
eradicated.
wasn't the point.
Okay.
I'm not talking about
So
them being
like in
eradicated.
this
I'm talking
movie,
about that
yes,
one,
yeah, like that
that
one
one
part when it
deviant.
absorbed everyone's power. Like, yes, that like he came out of nowhere, made it seem like something epic is gonna happen, and just killed him off.
That
I
you
Yeah.
get
would
you.
think it would be a
Just reason
bigger
how like
fight
there
scene.
are things that yeah, there are things that's like unnecessary about the movie. That deviant didn't need to exist in the movie. Like it
No, he
wouldn't have
didn't.
changed anything.
It
Honestly,
wouldn't
Yeah.
have. The thing is,
yeah.
that's
Now,
the only deviant that was able to actually absorb and evolve as heavy as they did. He gave the powers to the other deviants. The other deviants couldn't do
so
that. So there's like no other deviant that could really kind of evolve in there. So bringing that villain and like having him only have like 3 seconds of like airtime on the whole movie, I felt like it was a waste too, because the entire
yeah,
movie was hyping up deviants. It was all about deviants, deviants this, deviants that, and then all of a sudden you bring in the biggest deviant, and he dies like like that.
yeah.
Really?
I will say like the entire movie, like not the entire movie, to me, like it felt like they did build up the deviant, but then once the Celestial explained, oh, it was my mistake. I made them. They were supposed to like keep, feeding the souls to just Tamiat, Tiamat, whatever the freaking
Tim,
giant thing in the Earth was.
Timiot or something
Yeah,
like it. Yeah.
yeah, something like that. Like they're there to just, I guess, to keep the
They were so they. I
population
mean,
at bay, whatever it is, whatever it is. So like, but when he explained that, like, I didn't care about the deviant anymore. I'm like, okay, so it was just that. So I didn't really care for it anymore. So I didn't think
see,
it. They
that's the
did
point I'm
build
trying
it
to
up,
make.
but it didn't disappoint me in terms of like how it
Yeah,
cut him off though.
because so the whole point of the deviant, because having Icarus play the villain and stuff like that, it's why like the deviant was meant to be a
That was
distraction while he pulls off his plan, right? That was the whole point. The deviant was supposed to be a distraction, but they had to give it such an
for Icarus.
in-depth
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
Yeah, they had to give it like that one deviant. Like they couldn't just do a rampage amount of deviants. They wanted to like give it like a backstory and like have it feel like sympathy and like emotional pain for it. And it was like, oh, that feels a little unnecessary, because like if you're gonna lead
I
to
didn't.
this
We
villain,
didn't know anything.
I felt that. You know what I mean?
I didn't
It was
Mm.
when he took out what, Gilgamesh. I goddamn
Oh,
love Gilgamesh.
Gilgamesh was great. Felt bad for his
Yeah,
pie.
No, I thought you were talking about like when he was, I guess, sentient, the deviant, like when he started
yeah.
talking. I thought
Well,
you were talking about his
yeah,
part.
he became Yeah,
He
but I'm
became
saying when
sentient after killing Gilgamesh.
He got
became sentient,
Ajax memory.
every
Yeah.
time he absorbs their memories and their emotions,
Oh yeah,
yeah,
well the
like
scenes,
he
yeah, the
grows
scenes
more,
are good.
like
But when he was
emotional.
talking about like I got her memory, Ajax memory, and stuff like that, and y'all did this to me, and I don't feel nothing for you, bro. Like you killed like all these cool characters and crap. Like I don't like you. Like you get out of here. Like, no one needs you. But he was unnecessary. Like the whole Icarus being turning on like his reveal, his big
I
reveal.
saw that from a
I was like,
mile away.
they didn't need to do that. I didn't really care for that too.
The moment he flew into London, just his entrance alone of like coming in hot and just attacking, and I was like, this feels off.
Yeah,
I don't trust them.
that was
Yeah.
like a
I was
moment
like, this feels off.
I felt it at that moment, and then I denied myself. I was like, no, he has to be good. So but
Nah.
I didn't
Yeah.
talk about that set, but yeah, that feeling, that vibe, I did feel it.
Yeah.
The other thing
I was
is.
concerned.
Oh, go ahead.
Sorry, go ahead. Oh no, because I was gonna say, the concern that I had was that when you were talking about like origin stories, boring, you'll get enough of those. I was concerned that they were gonna do a bunch of flashbacks.
Mm.
That was just gonna like take up a big chunk
Which
of the movie.
they did.
They're like,
They did do
no,
that,
I mean,
yeah,
it took
but
a fine,
they explained it pretty
It took
well.
a few.
Yeah,
It
they
took
did
a
it pretty
few
well.
like
But
a
it's
few
like they did
flashbacks,
though.
but yeah, it didn't feel like it was the entire movie. Like it stayed back in the present and they kept the story going, and
Hmm.
then there was no more flashbacks after a certain point. And I was like, okay, good.
Yeah.
Well,
You know what I mean?
yeah, like I don't know what it was. Like it came full circle from the beginning, like how they did, arrive on planet Earth and stuff like that, and they protect these people. Well, they didn't really. They just wanted to see them advance, right? So they can grow in population. That was the original plan. And then all these flashbacks like, about Icarus and Xerxes, I think that's her name, and like the love story stuff like that. At first, I was like, oh, really? They need to do this? A love story? Really? But it came, and then they did the whole the guy that can read mind, his version, he left and all that stuff and took control of that one area. There was just so many flashbacks where I started to get annoyed. But towards the end, it all came back full circle, and that's the reason why I give it the rating that I give it. Like it kind of tied it all together. But at the same time, it's not a 7 to me, or it's not an 8 or a 9, because for some reason, even though I say they did it well, I still feel like something is off about the movie. And it could just be like that scene from the Deviant, how like they just wasted him, like it just wasn't enough. Like it just didn't feel enough, but it felt too long too at the same time. I don't know if
Hmm.
like
Yeah.
you guys can understand.
No, I know exactly what you're talking about because I agree. Um, I did feel like it was too long. I think that there is a possibility that Icarus can come back. I mean, the dude flew straight
Yeah,
into the
they
sun.
didn't show him burning up though, so
Nah, he's
Yeah.
well,
his
he's,
face
He
was
might
still
be.
clear when he was in the sun. So
yeah.
like it
Well, that's because
wasn't
he's an
wasn't
eternal.
melting or anything like that.
No, but I
Yeah.
think he's like I think I think he's dead. But I think his mind, his memory is alive because they did say that they are connected with
I mean, he's also
Tinnitus
a
or
clone,
whatever.
isn't he?
Yeah, he's
Or
just
like a robot, whatever.
they
Yeah.
just reborn them every time. So they're the
Yeah.
way that they explained it too is like the way that they come back to life every single time is that they are connected to Tinnitus or whatever the hell that thing's name is called. So every time a world is destroyed or something, they just go right back to their hometown or home planet or whatever, and then just get
Yeah.
reborn again when the next planet is ready to kind of go and do its
No,
thing.
they get their memory erased.
Right.
And it's stored.
So I
Yeah.
think his memory can come back, and I think he can literally just get another body. So I feel like there's definitely
No.
potential for Icarus to come back.
If he died in the sun, he's dead in the sun. Like in order for them to capture that memory, he has to go back on that platform, that the celestial. I forgot his name too. Like
No, I
No,
don't think
because
so.
showing.
they get destroyed with the Earth. They get destroyed with the planets
No,
that
they
are
don't.
destroyed.
They were explaining at the end when the celestial come up, they stay with that celestial and then they survive from being next to him. That's how they survive, is being next to him.
No, they die with with the Earth when the Celestial breaks open. But because the Celestial is connected to the Eternals, it absorbs it in.
Yeah.
So like you know how like at the end where she turned the Celestial into whatever that was, like all of the Celestial, no, I mean all of the Eternals, like their energy got absorbed into
Yeah.
her, and she used the Celestial's power
Against
to
them.
use against himself.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because they're all just
it was
energy
weird.
forms. So their energy
Yeah.
is linked, and then their energy gets transferred into the home place again.
Mhm.
It's
So they had
weird.
to
I heard. I remember hearing something different, I guess. But
Yeah, I
I'm
mean, I
not
don't know
gonna
the
rewatch
rules.
it.
Like, if
It's
they die,
weird with the
maybe it'll
rules.
still.
Yeah, who freaking knows?
Yeah.
I just think he has a potential to come back. That's all I'm saying.
I so throughout the whole movie, I was kind of annoyed. Um, it's because these are supposed to be like these almighty beings, right? The Eternals, like protector or watcher, whatever they're claiming themselves to be. But the whole entire movie, I never felt, aside from like the Speedster maybe, and maybe Icarus, maybe, but even then, not really. I never felt like any one of them strong.
No, they're not very physically strong. Like Icarus
Yeah,
was
of
that
And
they
course.
in
that's why
general,
they said Icarus was the strongest one. They each had powers and it's like the dumbest thing. Like even Harry Styles, which we'll get into a little bit later, his power is dumb in my opinion, but like it's
like
just
what
Oh
was
yeah.
portrayed in the movie, like it was just straight, like they were weak as hell. Like
yeah.
I don't even think any of them could beat any of the Avengers.
Well,
Well,
no,
cuz the
because
thing
so
is
they're
I think why they
I'm
looked a
talking
little
about
bit
anything.
weaker, I think they looked a little bit weaker because they were versing Deviants, and Deviants is just a form of an Eternal. They're just like a side effect ish. Like they're the same as Eternals, which is why their powers kind of
No, there
equal.
was a scene where Icarus got slapped. So maybe it could because he was slapped by a deviant, but he got slapped into a building like in the Amazon, and then he was weak from like the impact. I'm
Yeah,
like, it's made out of wood, and
they
you're like supposed to be like another Superman. Like I don't know.
right. They needed
This
well,
makes
they
no
needed
sense
the
to me.
healer because the healer is the reason as to why they were able to kind of survive with the wounds that they got in the whole place. Gilgamesh was strong. Gilgamesh literally
Gilgamesh.
He was
slaps
strong in
one
terms
of
of
the
strength,
friggin'
but
deviants.
he got like killed like by a couple stats.
Well, yeah,
That
that's
was it.
he sucked his soul out. That's what it was. But
So Shang Tsung from like Mortal Kombat can beat the Eternals.
he like yeah, he sucked the energy source from him. That's why he was able to absorb the powers. And that's why he died.
That
So
yeah, that part like it that bugged me because I'm like I went in thinking that these are like these strong beings, and they turned out
yeah,
being
Well, no,
that strong.
because thing is right. You have to think of these characters were either chosen or like made specifically to progress, like to kill deviants, but also progress the world to populate. So
I
it's
know, but
like
the
right.
way
how Cersei's
the
was her
way
like Cersei's was a main character, and her power was like changing matter and growing things, and so it was like for a main character
yeah, but
superhero like that was like the whole point of it. So like they needed one OP strength fighter. They needed a warrior, but then they also needed someone with technology ability and who
the
can
Justice
help
League
control population. It's
that ending where like she froze everything and how to beat it, I was like, so Iceman could have done that.
Pretty much. Yeah.
yeah.
It would have taken
But the
longer, but I think
reason
he
why
would have
like I
done it.
actually believed they were strong was because that scene where Xerxes was talking with Black Knight. He was like, "How come you didn't intervene with Thanos?" And he's like, "No, we're not allowed
Mm.
to." The way she said it was like, "We could probably kick Thanos' ass, but we just weren't allowed to." So I'm like, "But what I just saw in the movie didn't look like you could even do anything to Thanos. What the hell are you talking about?" You know what I
Yeah.
mean? So it's like
Yeah, I
it was
mean,
just
they're like
the power scale was like off balance. I didn't like it. It wasn't in perfect
they're
balance.
they're strong because they work as a good team. Like they control, like they all have these significant powers, and like honestly, I feel like they could like beat Thanos if they like all ganged up on him and stuff. Because like
They could.
It's like saying actually
who's to
beat
say?
Thanos.
I don't know if Eternal's power because like Druid, right? He controls minds. I don't know if that works for other Eternals. Because you know, I was saying Thanos is, uh, he he is an Eternal who
It
carries a
might.
deviant gene.
He never
No, he
tried.
carries a
Yeah.
He never tried to take over
oh yeah,
any of the other Eternals'
Well,
minds,
he
so
yeah.
technically
So
did
I don't know if that
put
works.
he put the timid to sleep with his mind.
technically I guess
Yeah.
then he could put him to
So if
sleep.
he could do
Yeah, so
that,
he
I mean,
could do it
Oh, okay.
technically.
So yeah, so yeah, they're like powerful and stuff.
Yeah.
It's just like
yeah, but
they
he'd
all
probably
strategically
lose
use
real
it.
quick to like Xavier.
So
I mean,
Like
they
real
gotta
quick.
make it look difficult. I guess I don't know.
yeah, so
I
my
guess.
thing
Yeah.
is I really don't know how they're gonna tie in the fact that Thanos is an Eternal. Only because Eternals were like Eternals were created. They're not real humans. They're not
Yeah,
real people. They're just robot kind of things. You know what I mean? Whereas Thanos even said
Well-
he's from the planet Titan. Like he's not like he was born. He was like an actual born thing.
Yeah, according
Well,
to
especially because
the story, he was born from two Eternals, right? And it never was determined whether or not they could get pregnant. So they never said they couldn't.
because
Yeah.
it was he was born from Eternals, but he carried deviant genes, and that's why he looks different.
The way that
You know
he
what I
is,
mean?
right? Yeah, I knew he had like I think they called it like deviant like syndrome or something like that, where it's like
Yeah, so that like
you're half and half.
so his entire population doesn't look like him. Like if you know in the post credit you see Harry Styles as Eros, which is like what was the something Fox? What was the name of the
Star Fox.
Star Fox?
Yep.
Yeah, Star Fox. And like that's his actual brother in
Yeah.
it. You know what I mean?
Yeah, but
And it's
he
just-
also did say that he killed
think
off half
that's
of his
it.
population because of like food and stuff. You know what I mean? Like he killed half of his own population. So he killed half of Eternals.
Not necessarily. Like the Eternals could have this birth and they probably populate it and then they probably left.
I don't know. That's just it to me it's a little weird. I feel like that's just going to be a little off. I don't know if they can really say no cuz I don't know. Star Fox is technically an Eternal. So I don't know how they're going to really make this to be honest with you. And if they're introducing Star Fox or Eros is his name, do you think that they'll actually bring Thanos back? Because Thanos and Eros had a lot of conflict between each other in the comics, and they did
Flashbacks maybe.
maybe flashbacks. I don't know, or maybe he could still be like a big thing.
No, because it's the timeline confusion thing. It's because he was past. I mean, they could just keep jumping timelines or something. I don't know, but like, because
I
Thanos,
would
like
be, you know?
he's like a recurring villain.
Yeah.
But I don't know if they're gonna keep doing that or.
I really
it's hard
like
to say.
the next. It's most likely gonna be in the next Eternal movie, right? Eternals movie, and it's probably gonna be Star Fox talking about how he and Thanos was for like a brief moment. Because I think what Marvel's trying to do is to get rid of the idea that Thanos no longer exists. So I don't think he's gonna be
They
any
might.
big part other than flashback.
Well,
Yeah.
okay, so yeah, I guess we can go right into the end credit scenes since we're talking about Harry Styles. So the first end credit scene was Harry Styles, who yes is Thanos' younger brother. I want to say his real name is Eros. His hero name is Star Fox. He came in. He was introduced by Pip was his name, who I thought was played by Seth Rogen. It's not Seth Rogen.
Sounded like him.
It sounded like him,
That was my
but it
first
was
guess.
not Seth Rogen. And I don't remember the name of the actor who actually played Pip, but it really threw me. I was like, is that Seth Rogen? But it's not. So yeah, he was all drunk and stuff. So Star Fox, from what I know, is a huge fuckboy. Like
Yeah.
ginormous playboy kind of asshole, and it kind of leads up to his powers because I did say that his powers are really lame. His powers are literally controlling human emotion. So
Yeah. See, that was
that's the only
disappointing
thing,
to hear.
which is
That's
why,
pretty OP.
well, I mean, which is why he's a fuckboy because like he's probably controlling a lot of women to like
Yeah.
fall in
What do you-
love
how
with
do
him
you-
and stuff like that. But
What do you think? Like, what is your judgment on his costume? Like, how does Harry Style look in the costume? Because that's
in
a
the
big role
costume,
They
for
look
him
cool.
right now.
The thing is,
yeah,
if you've seen the comic book ones, he's also
Yeah, I
he's
just
not
looked
like
at
a bulky guy. Yeah, he's like a skinny, guy in a suit, whatever, who's just like a playboy and stuff. And the thing is, like, for him to be like a playboy type character and like having really kind of lame powers, he's played roles as an Avenger. Like he's been an Avenger in the comics
hmm
for like certain storylines, and I'm like, that's just crazy. But I think it was like there was this whole thing about a story arc about like he knows that his brother's a villain, and like he wanted to be the opposite or help like take back or do a redemption story for his brother and stuff like that, and he became a hero instead or something like that.
mm,
And I was like,
could.
that might be like an interesting.
Speaking of like Avengers, the what's his name? Kumar.
Oh
Oh,
yeah.
whatever his name is,
uh,
Kingo, the Indian guy. Like he said, he trained someone to
Yeah,
be an
he
Avengers or
didn't
something.
train anyone. He said that when Thor was a child, Thor used
yeah,
to
he was
follow him
trans. Yeah,
around. He was and then like when he was a baby, he used to follow like Thor used to follow him around
Oh,
and then all that. And then now he's an
that was great.
Avenger, but now he doesn't return my calls.
okay. Before
That was funny.
before we get into the end credits stuff like that, I thought it was really cool that they brought up Batman and Superman references.
That was
Earlier.
funny. Yeah, that was good.
Yeah,
He's like that's
Uh,
Superman. He's like I don't wear capes. So
yeah,
that was
that
a
was
oh,
good.
pretty
okay,
cool.
yeah. I was like, I'm trying to remember the reference because you guys saw it today. I saw it
It,
like last week.
yeah,
So
it was a good
the
reference.
reference with Batman was when they went to go see Gilgamesh for the first time,
Hmm.
and then Gilgamesh looked, and it was like the guy with the camera, the big guy with the camera. He's
Oh
like,
yeah,
oh, I don't
yeah,
valet with like valet. He's like valet, like Alfred. And
Yeah,
yeah. Oh
yeah,
I
yeah,
was
yeah.
like,
Dude, I love that guy,
I remember that.
Patel. I think his name was
pretty cool.
Patel. He was
Yeah,
the best comedy source in the entire thing. I loved his comedy. Like when he kept on whipping out cameras, and she was just like, "How many
yeah.
cameras do you have?"
You know what
Yeah,
Great
I
scene.
hate? The part that I hated was the way that what Kingu just dipped on out
I know that was
and didn't
stupid,
reappear until the very last minute of the movie.
but
Like he was
it's
like, okay,
I
well,
get it. I
yeah.
get it.
I
It
trust that he knows what he's
I
doing,
get it.
no, I thought he
and
was gonna come back. I thought like you're gonna see like a little bullet fly
yeah,
through. No, he never
yeah.
came
I thought
back.
it was
This
gonna be
dude
like
dipped.
he changes. I thought he would change his mind or something, but he was
No,
just standing like, oh, I believe Icarus. He knows best. I'm just gonna. He's like, he's basically willing to die
pretty much. Well,
and
he's
just
not
let
willing to
Icarus
die.
No,
He
die.
knows that he's
it
gonna
was
come back to life.
Yeah,
pretty
He's willing to let the
like
humans die.
I didn't know like Xerxes gonna end it like that, where she gets freeze everything, which is pretty lame. But I knew that Icarus is not gonna kill her, and the
Yeah,
love between them is gonna stop the fight or whatever it is. I saw that coming. So that's the reason I'm like when Kingo left, I'm like, yeah, I don't need him anyways. He's not gonna change anything. Like
you know,
so,
it's funny
but
I mean,
too.
like his goal was never to kill her. It was he was
Yeah,
just trying to stall them enough, so that way he
for
didn't have
that.
to fight
Yeah,
the Eternals. Yeah,
yeah.
because that's like his
But I
family.
mean,
So,
that was that suspense and that quick 3 seconds where he looked at her and then she closed her eyes. She's like, oh, I guess I'm dead now. And then she opened her eyes and
yeah,
he's like crying, crap like that. So
yeah.
yeah,
I think it was just first of all, is his name Kingo or something? What
yeah,
was?
I think it's
Yeah,
Kingu,
Kingo.
yeah,
that dude is the first hero to actually dip and not come back. You know what I mean? Because like every
yeah.
hero, they'll leave
It's
and
not
then all of a
very
sudden
hero-like.
they'll just like make a cool re-entrance and be like, oh, like
Yeah,
damn it, and then all that kind of stuff.
This is
He's
not
literally
your
the first
this is not your
guy.
basic Marvel movie.
Yeah.
it was specifically. Remember when like they all of the Eternals, their whole energy got absorbed out
Hmm.
into the
He wasn't even a
Celestial.
part of that. Yeah.
I, he wasn't even a part of that. I
No,
was
he
like,
wasn't.
what?
But the thing
See,
is,
just because they didn't show it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
no, it
He's
100%
probably
didn't
in like his
happen.
studio just coding
Imagine
it.
he's like in the middle of London or something. He's just like, oh, okay, well, I guess this is happening. No, this is what that's another thing that kind of pissed me off too, was the fact that like this whole thing happened. There's a fight, whatever. I thought that she was gonna be strong because everyone was like, oh, I can't do this anymore. This is your fight. So like basically when that happened, it kind of proved that the dude who can take over minds, he didn't have the power to do this. Even if you created and brought everyone's power together, he was not able to put him to sleep. So here I am thinking like he's not strong enough, even with everyone's combined power. It's just not going to work. I thought that Cersei was going to be able to just take down the Celestial by herself, single-handedly, by absorbing the Celestial's power, right? But then it was the whole connection thing. But what pissed me off was the fact that you go through this entire thing, this whole fight sequence, everything, just to have the person who stabbed you in the back and Icarus both help you take down the Celestial. You know what I mean? Because they were a part of it. They helped attach themselves to
Well,
Cersei so that
they
Cersei
didn't
could
have a
do it.
choice. Like when it happened, they
No,
kind of
they
just went up
had a
with it. Like
choice.
they didn't have a choice though.
I felt like they
They
did. I just thought it was dumb.
yeah.
It was so stupid. They
Maybe
both just kind of like they were like, and then like they just
yeah,
kind of
because
were
they
like
couldn't do
taken.
anything.
I felt like it was just
Like
so
power is
like
celestial.
it was just the buildup was so like let down. You know what I mean? Because I thought something else was gonna happen. I don't know. It just felt like a little off to me. Um,
Well, something else did happen, right? Their father or whatever it is. Like I call him the father, but like when he showed up,
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
pretty epic.
Retrieve
That was
them.
pretty cool. Yeah. Splitting
Like
up
when,
the
when Xerxes went like this and looked and her eye kind of flickered, I'm like, oh,
yeah.
okay.
That's straight up
Oh, like,
godly
oh, like,
what he did.
Yeah, he did. He split the clouds like the Red Sea, man. He just freaking went for it. Which
don't hate him on that stuff.
yeah, it definitely made it sound like there's going to be like a second Eternals. I did like how he's just like, yeah, I'm going to like take you guys, review all of your memories, and then I'm going to judge Earth, and I'll be back. So I'm like, oh, okay. So
Yeah.
basically, all these people just saw this giant ass thing take this woman and then just disappear. And everyone's like, well,
They're used to it by now.
yeah, they probably
Like,
are,
they've seen
especially
Thanos
with
and all
all
that
the
stuff.
Avengers
That's what I'm
crap and
saying.
yeah.
Like the future stories are gonna be big because it's involving Celestials.
Yeah,
And
it's gonna be
like,
big.
imagine having
It's
to
gonna-
fight a goddamn Celestial. Like, how do you even do that?
Right.
You know what I mean?
Without
And
like,
like now,
yeah.
it's like, and we know now in the future, like movies, you're just randomly gonna know that there's gonna be a part of the sea that has a hand coming out like
Yeah,
this.
this guy.
And this is like now that's in the universe. It's
I
like,
can't even imagine being like a human being that lived in the Marvel universe. I'll probably just be like, oh, okay. Like, here we go again. Oh, well, what this
Yeah,
time?
But then your chance of having powers would be at least 1%.
Apparently,
you know.
Jesus, this is the
Yeah.
amount of people that have powers or accidents that happen to cause people to get powers. Like, it's insane. So,
Speaking
sometimes
of
it's exciting to
powers,
think.
Uh,
Yeah. No.
uh, no, I mean I was gonna go straight to Jon Snow's character.
yes. Give me
Black
1
Knight.
second.
Harrington.
I'll pull up his little picture here.
First of all,
Kit
I
Harington.
absolutely love Kit Harington.
Kit Harington's
Like,
great.
as an actor. Yeah, I've always loved him as an actor. And just learning that like the character that he's gonna portray.
It's a good
Black
character
Knight,
for him, I think.
Yeah.
It fits.
It fits.
It
Yeah.
fits.
He kind of even
But
looks
I
like
did
him.
a quick glance of what his power is. It doesn't seem like he has power. He just
He
built
he
mystical
doesn't have powers.
Yeah, so
His
he
his
doesn't have
sword
powers,
is
he's
the
just-
power.
He's a swordsman.
Yes.
His power is from the ebony blade.
The ebony blade is
And
yes what
there's,
they
like,
call it.
Yeah, and it's supposed to be like this whole thing, like because he should be. And I was like reading up a little bit on it, but he should be the third, like carrier of like someone in his family, who carries the bloodline, and the title of Black Knight.
Yes.
And like because he was saying like in the movie how he was saying like, oh, complicated family past and stuff like that. So in it, from what I read, it was that his uncle, I believe, was the person who had it before
The
him.
bad one. Yeah, he's the
Yeah,
villain.
He
He's
was
the bad
villain.
one.
He was a villain, and so like then got passed to him, and he's like supposed to make up for it. I can't remember. But I'm like, dude, this is kind of like dope. Like I'm excited to see like this character because that's also a very unknown character. Like I do not know
Yes.
anything about him. And then the voice.
Oh, so we can
couldn't figure
talk
who it
about
was.
that. We can talk about that in a little bit because Shane and I do know about this. I just want to talk a little bit more about Kit Harington as the Black Knight. The ebony sword, it's dated back to like the Knights of the Round Table.
Yeah,
It's
King
been
Arthur's day.
yes, it's King Arthur and who's the knight that began with an M? It was like he's a big well-known swordsman. I don't remember.
Swordsman.
Yeah, someone I don't remember.
No,
Anyway,
it's like Lancelot and stuff. I don't know.
well,
I
it
know
dates
Percival, Lancelot, and King Arthur. I don't know the other ones.
Merlin.
Merlin? But he's
Merlin,
not a knight.
Merlin. Well, it dates back to Merlin.
a
That's what
wizard.
it was. He was a wizard. I'm sorry, I
Yeah.
apologize. But it dates back to like the Knights of the Round Table, Merlin kind of stuff. Where this sword, the ebony sword, the thing about the ebony sword is it's a very risky sword. It has when you have the sword, you get the powers, but the sword is the power, where it can cut through basically anything. It can cut through magical barriers. It can cut through everything. It's one of the sharpest swords. It gives you like those like powers of swordsman and stuff like that. The only problem is the ebony sword has been known for a very strong bloodlust. So every Black Knight that has
like that.
it's a pretty evil looking sword.
Yeah,
But
like when I saw it and there's a blood stain on it, I'm like,
yeah,
okay, it does that.
there's
Okay,
that.
that's why he was scared to touch it. Okay, it does
Exactly.
that.
So it's very bloodlusty, and the history of the ebony sword and those who wield it have been known to be very murderous and kind of evil, which is why the
Oh, okay.
evil Black Knight, who has gone against like the Wasp, Ant-Man, all that, that was his uncle. But they didn't really like portray that. It's in the comics that's his uncle, but Kit Harington actually plays the good Black Knight, that is actually an Avenger, but he doesn't
Yeah.
really have the Black Knight doesn't really have any particular power. He's just a very skilled swordsman. So he's just a human with a sword, really, and then the sword kind of does all the work or most of the work, which then kind of leads us to the cutscene. So the cutscene was he opened up the box, he saw the ebony sword, he was about to touch it. It says,
Oh wait, hold on. Uh, you said it's like dating around the King Arthur's time.
Mhm.
Maybe we're probably gonna get a little insider story about how Angelina Jolie character got the Excalibur. So
Maybe
Wait,
yeah,
she
she had
did
the
get
because they were
Excalibur.
Excalibur.
collecting a bunch. Yeah.
They were
Yeah.
just they were
Oh, okay.
collecting a lot of artifacts, and I think that was just like a very like quick thing where it's like, oh, King Arthur had a thing for you, and then I guess he's
Yeah.
dead, and now you have
Yeah.
Excalibur, which was a fun
Might tie
little.
into that.
It was a fun little fact, little kind of
Yeah,
gesture
but
thing that they threw in there.
now that you saying the ebony is around that time,
hmm
like it might
We
tie
we
somewhere.
could get a
All
little bit of
kind
a
of connects.
backstory. I would like that. So what happens is he opens up the box, and the box says, "Death is your reward," or "Reward your reward is death," or something like that. Um, which kind of like that's pretty evil. And he's about to go and touch it, and there's a voice that says, "Are you sure about that, or are you ready for this, Mr. Whitman?" Now that voice was none other, and it was confirmed by the director, which is very exciting. None other than and I don't know if I'm saying his name right, Mahershala Ali, who is confirmed to play Blade.
Oh,
Bro.
So this, I think, Mahershala Ali, he plays Blade. This is the man who said this. I'm kind of excited. The theory that I believe and that I've kind of been reading up on is the reason as to why Blade is the person who kind of finds Kit Harington is because Blade is another skilled swordsman. He's another master swordsman, and they're saying that Blade might have gone up against one of the other previous Black Knights, and he knows that the sword is like bloodlusty, and he knows what the sword wields power and stuff like that. So he might be going to Kit Harington to kind of. I think he's going to. Kit Harington's going to be a pretty big part of Blade, but I think that Blade is going to help him control the lust. So that way he actually controls the sword and the sword doesn't control him. And that's how he becomes a good version of the Black Knight and an Avenger worthy hero.
I feel like they're gonna do the storyline like that. Because I was like wondering, like, what's the point of having Blade there? I'm like, so maybe if he did fight the last Black Knight, he came to make sure the next area of Black Knight doesn't come into existence. I feel like he came there to kill him or stop him. Like it was just like an entrance line that he said,
It could.
and then like it could be like that, and then Kit Harington, who's about to be killed by Blade, grabs it and just has the power or whatever. Possibly, I don't know. There's like, yeah, they'll probably make a combined movie with them in the next Blade movie. I never thought that Blade had such a big role. I didn't even know Blade was Marvel.
I
Like
didn't
yeah, I
either.
did not.
until they announced that
hmm
he was gonna be in the MCU,
hmm
I was like, he's a part of the Marvel universe,
I honestly
and I
thought
was
that
like,
Blade was just a vampire movie. I didn't realize that he was actually a comic book
I
character.
knew it was like a comic, but I thought he was like part of like Spawn, or something like that. Like
Nah,
that
yeah,
would
I
have been
couldn't
yeah,
more
even tell.
fitting.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I think that's actually really cool. I think it's really exciting how they can seriously just. I think that Marvel and comic books in general, I think that Justice or DC kind of does this really well too in the comics, where they can literally take any superhero and then have some sort of connection to other superheroes and other things. Because it's like the most absurd character in this entire Marvel, these next three Marvel phases is Blade. He has like, I like when I was hearing all these like superheroes, I was like Fantastic Four, Eternals, Spider-Man, Shang-Chi, all these people, and then they were like Blade, and I was like, what the like Blade is so random compared to everything else. So I was like, how the hell is Blade really gonna fit into this, especially with like vampires? You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's gonna introduce a different kind of aspect of like villains and creatures, but I felt like it was really cool the way that they actually tied in Blade and that small character to another character that was a part of the Eternals. That just kind of like two small characters that are probably gonna make a really big um, entrance, as well as kind of make the story for phase 4 and 5 pretty well. You know what I mean? Like it's all going to tie in pretty well, and I have faith that Marvel is going to do a really good job tying in these small characters together. But
It's gotta be. I mean, this Blade, we know him to slay vampires, and then coincidentally, there's a Morbius movie coming out.
I didn't
He's
even
like a
think of that. Oh my
So,
God.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even think of that. That's
Yeah.
kind of
So
that's a good
we
way.
have the superhero world, but like there are supernatural parts into the MCU or in like the Marvel comics. So like, I mean, it doesn't like seem too crazy. It's just what we're used to knowing Blade as,
Right,
like just
right.
vampire killer or whatever. And so it was like interesting how it's gonna be interesting to see how Marvel does it. We've seen Blade, we've seen like the whole story with vampire stuff, but then you add superheroes and stuff into it.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's either gonna be extremely dope or extremely like weird or lame or too much. You know what I mean?
No,
be like
I
it'll be
agree.
like the Punisher. It's probably gonna be like the Punisher.
Did we
Yeah,
ever get a
maybe.
Punisher movie?
No, we never got up. Well, I mean,
Yeah,
we
we
got
have.
an old Punisher
As
movie. It was very
not
like
yeah,
old.
old
It's not
Punisher
part of the
movie, but
MCU.
Yeah, and then they have
The
the
show.
Netflix
It's
one.
a TV show, which
I'm
is
surprised they
fantastic.
haven't. Yeah, I'm surprised they haven't gotten like done Punisher yet. You know what I
Well,
mean?
you
Like
never know
it's a
what's going to
good,
happen. You never
yeah,
know.
because that's a good story like as well.
It is a very good story, but they looped it in with Daredevil, which Daredevil, by the way, looping into the Spider-Man thing that we'll talk about a little later. But yeah, so I'll talk about it later. So, going back
okay.
to Eternals, I think that, I like I said, good stuff. I think that there's a lot of good things to look forward to. I think that I didn't even think about the Morbius. I just thought that Morbius was really going to be a Spider-Man thing, and I didn't even think that Morbius was going to even be tied into Spider-Man. But then I saw, um, what's his name,
That trailer.
Michael Keaton, and the trailer, and I think that like, I mean, Morbius is coming out after Spider-Man. It's coming out in January. Spider-Man's coming out in December. So obviously Morbius is not going to be a part of this movie, but it could just be kind of who knows what's going to happen. It's kind of railing it in for the next whatever.
That was a discussion that was I had with Rolly earlier, where there it's if it's true because we have a theory. If it's true, it's gonna really suck. It's gonna like be horrible if it's
Oh,
true.
like in
But
a
like
bad way or in a good way? Because I don't know. Like,
no, it's like
Saying
it's
it
gonna
like
be
a
bad
bad
if
way.
they do. So because I'm trying to tie in all the story because I was saying how like Morbius is in Venom universe and then Michael Keaton from MCU is in
oh,
the
gotcha.
Venom
I know what you're
universe
saying.
too.
Yep, yep.
So it's like yeah. So we have like an idea of like what might be going on, but it's hard to say. Just a couple
I
things
feel
that
that.
Okay,
we
so are we done with the Eternals then?
yeah.
Yeah, I was about to say that. So I think we can be finished with the Eternals. Because I think we talked about everything that there is to talk about as far as like the movie goes and end credit scenes. Because the end credit scenes really the ones that I really wanted to talk about. I think it's just really exciting to see uh, Black Knight and Blade tie-in. But I'm also just really excited to see Kit Harington. He's a really good actor, and I want to see the relationship that Blade and the Black Knight kind of have, kind of moving forward.
Yeah.
But yeah, um, like I said, overall rating of the movie, I'll give a 7. That's really it.
7.
we'll tie it at that, and we'll kind of, I guess, if you guys are good, I think we can kind of go into our next segment here.